right, you guys, I am Miss Walters. I do feel like there's one more phone thing I should be taking off because this is definitely not clear. So I am one of the counselors down at the counseling center, and you guys are starting or just have learned about mental health, correct?
We'll be starting it next week.
Starting it next week, okay? So this is just kind of giving you a foundation about what we're going to talk about, okay? So with mental health, I think there's a lot of misunderstandings about what it is. And I think a lot of times kiddos think that someone that has mental illness is broken, or they have low coping skills, and that if they just would change their attitude, it would change the behavior. And you know what? Sometimes that might be true, okay? So, you all have a brain. I hate to tell you that. You all have one, okay? Now, I have never claimed to be an artist. So if you'd like to giggle, that's okay. So this is your left and right hemisphere of your brain, okay? So your brain has these cool things. They're called receptors. And they shoot to each other, okay? So these things shoot off. It's like playing catch, okay? So these will throw off some hormones, dopamine, serotonin, some of that stuff, okay? And then these receptors will catch it. And then they'll throw it back, okay? This is normal for this to do this, right? Boop-a-doo, boop-a-doo. Going back and forth. Now, it is normal for these to fluctuate because we're human beings, we're emotional beings. And so when you're depressed, do you think they shoot higher or lower?
Lower.
Let's say it loud, say it proud.
Lower.
Right, lower, right? And then if you're excited, woohoo, it's my birthday! Is it going to shoot higher or lower? Higher. Your fight or flight response, okay? They're going to shoot like crazy, right? It's normal for these to fluctuate. What's not normal is if they stay at a certain level for too long, okay? So let's say that you have a hormonal level issue, or these are like little, like, have you ever hitched a hose and it really cuts the flow, right? So let's say we pinch the flow and it's going, okay, so it's doing this, right? So this is going to be someone that's going to feel very lethargic, depressive, kind of have a hard time right there with emotions, all right? If this goes more than 5 days, I want the white flag up. What does the white flag symbolize? If any of you guys have taken any history, what does the white flag mean?
Surrender.
Say it loud, say it proud.
Surrender.
Surrender, okay? Surrendering. This is when I don't want you guys ever to go more than 5 days with a low depressed. Or let's say somebody broke the pipe. Oh, and these are shooting like a madman, right? Those are people that are highly manic. Okay, have you ever heard the word manic before? Okay, usually your bipolar will have lows and highs. Could you imagine that being your life every day? Having it fluctuate that much, okay? But some people can stay in a manic phase for a couple days and they don't sleep. Again, 5 days. Okay, so we're going to go back to this in just a minute. So each one of us, being human beings, have a natural way that we cope with things, okay? You have what's called internal and external. Asher, what do you think internal means? What's the first word that you hear? In, okay? So people that are naturally internal people, they have a habit of holding things in. And this is not always a bad thing, guys, right? We are our own people. But these people are my ones that if they are having some emotional issues, they're going to hold things in and they're going to have upset stomachs. They're going to usually get headaches. These are my ones that if they don't have appropriate coping skills, they're my self-harmers. They will isolate, okay? Suicide ideation, do you know what suicide ideation is? Suicide thoughts, okay? Those are my internal people. So if you are an internal person, what are some coping skills you feel like you could use that would be appropriate? What do you think? Mr. Hillcrest Football. What's your name? Braden?
Yeah.
Braden, what is this?
Notebook.
It's a notebook. What do you think people would use this notebook for?
Writing stuff down.
Writing stuff down. So a lot of my students that are internal individuals, I'll have them keep a journal. Now this journal is not, dear journal, today I ate an Egg McMuffin for breakfast. I don't give a rat's butt about what you ate, okay? What this is about doing is letting you emotionally vomit all over this paper. No one is to read this but you, okay? And so what I'll do is I'll have someone that's an internal person just open this up and do what's called free association. Just don't worry about grammar, don't worry about spelling, just get it out, whatever it is. If you have to go below the belt, go below the belt, okay? Say things that you probably wouldn't say. The reason why, there's two things I like about the journal keeping for internal people is two, they're getting it from inside out. This is tangible, right? I can touch it, I can look at it, right? Plus, if they want to, they can go back and read what they wrote and process through some of these emotions. How much of this is on me? How much of this is on other people? How much of this is we have no idea why I'm feeling this way, okay? Hey, you ever had a day where it seemed like every interaction you had, no matter who it was negative? When I have stuff like that where someone driving ticks me off, students coming in and asking me to do a schedule change so they can be with their friends for lunch ticks me off. I go home, my dog ticks me off, my kids tick me off. What's the common denominator in all of those situations? Me. And that's when I say, okay, Walters, what's up? Everything is bugging the snot out of you, okay? These are ways you can actually look at these things and process through them. Another thing I like to do with journals that I use with my internal people is sometimes I'll have them write a letter. I let them decide if it's something they're going to send. So I worked with a woman who had a lot of trauma with her mother. She's a mom now, and she was realizing that she was having a lot of anxiety and depression now that she was a mom, because she had a lot of unresolved issues from the neglect she received when she was younger. So her mom was not very open to conversation, so she wrote a letter to her mom expressing all the feelings she's always wanted to express but couldn't. Did I read it? Absolutely not. It was private. But what we did with it is we shredded it, we mixed it with soil, we planted a plant with the soil, something that she could nourish and make positive from the hurt. Was her mom involved in this process? No. But it was allowing her to deal with that. So this is what I like to do with my internal people. My external people. Okay, I already picked on Asher. What's your name?
Riker.
Wrecker? So external. If you know what internal is, what do you think externals are? Out. Okay? My external people will tell you where the sun shines, right? They are not afraid to tell you off. My external people, if they're not handling it appropriately, they put holes in the walls. They like to throw things. They engage in very dangerous behaviors, driving fast, reckless stuff like that. They'll abuse drugs and alcohol more so than my internal, but my internal also do that. They also can have suicide ideation, okay? So if that's external, what would be an appropriate way if you are an external person as far as handling things. What's your name, sir?
Yusuf.
Say it loud and proud.
Yusuf.
Yusuf. So what do you think would be an appropriate thing for someone that's an external person?
Stress ball.
Stress ball, right? Something physical, okay? When I worked in a treatment center out in Draper, whenever it's more my men, but I'm external. So don't think it goes always by sex, okay? But when I had a guy losing his crap in the treatment center, right? Now I had to give him at least compliant, right? Because if I might take some kid out back that's putting holes in the walls, right? But if I could get him where, okay, holy Shinto, we're having some problems, he's escalating, do you think I would sit him down and go like this? I'd like you to sit down, please. Here's a journal. I would like you to talk to me about your feelings. How do you think that would go over for an external person? He would tell me where the sun shined, right? So with my external people, I'd take them out back. We would run laps. We would shoot hoops. We would be talking while we were doing something physical, okay? When I got called into a room with a kid that was going off, the first thing I would do if it was an external person is I'd come in and be, oh, man, you're ticked. What the hell's going on? Oh, sorry, I swore on TV. What the heck's going on? And I'd be like right with them. I didn't come in and be like, sit down, knock it off. Because if you're mad, how's that going to work? Not, right? And so I'd be like kind of mimicking him, but not making fun of him. Because usually they were pacing. I'd be like, ah. Well, when I thought that me and them were connecting, I'd slow down to see. Because if I slowed down, what do you think they would do? If we were connected, they would slow down. And then I would slow my breathing down. Wow, hey, good job relaxing, dude. What's going on? That's how you'd approach an external person, okay? Why do you think I'd give them something like this? So right when they feel it coming on, they can start doing this before it escalates, okay? Behavior, you could call it the domino effect, but I like to look at it more as a spiral, okay? If you can be highly self-aware of who you are, you're going to be very mindful of this part. So that when you start to spiral, you're going to go, oh crap, I'm starting to spiral. And you're going to start implementing some of these coping skills. Breathing, squishing a ball, writing down feelings. Because if I come into a situation and you're right here, do you think I'm going to be able to get you here very quick? I got to unwind all of that. And that's why a lot of times with teenagers and with adults, I love to teach them how to be aware of their own cues and themselves so that when they start to spiral, they start to deal with it and not blow it off. Okay? I have a lot of kids that will come into my office just this last week and be like, well, I'm feeling this, but I'm trying not to feel this way. And I'll say, stop. If we ignore, what happens? It builds, right? Let's acknowledge it. Let's give it a name. Let's deal with it, okay? So now that I've kind of explained to you guys what internal and external are, how many of you guys, you might have to take out that I swear on that. I hate to offend a parent. How many of you guys would say that you are an internal person? You're prone to hold things in. You kind of isolate sometimes. Okay. How many of you guys would say that you're external? And I just I sanitize my hands before I came in. Okay. So it's so important that you guys are aware of your cues. You all have them. Unfortunately, you get like 2 seconds before you lose it. Okay? That's why it's so important to be aware of your cues. Mine is I lock my jaw. So if I'm getting ticked, I lock my jaw. And I'm very aware of that now because when I lock my jaw, I say in my head, Walters, you need to chill out. I'll even loosen my jaw. And then I have a rule. If I lock my jaw twice, I'm out. Okay? That means I need to go to timeout. My children, I have 4 daughters. They know it. When mom says, I'm going to timeout, you leave mom alone. Okay? Because they know that that's me trying to get my crap together so I don't yell at them. Okay? You need to be mindful. Do you start to pace? Do you get an upset stomach? Do you get a headache? Do you clench your fist? I see a lot of that with my externals when they're starting to get agitated. They'll clench their fist. Some will crack their knuckles. Be aware of that, because if you can be aware of that cue, it will help you so much to identify and you be able to step in before it becomes too much. Okay? Now, why do you think I want to teach you coping skills? Mr. Black t-shirt that I can't tell because this is foggy, what's on it? Does that say Metallica? Sorry. This is really foggy, I'm not even kidding you. Mr. Metallica, what's your name? Jackson. Why do you think it would be important to be aware of your cues?
Well, just so next time if you feel those cues, you don't let it get out, so you can control it and know what you need to do.
Exactly. And if I have a student that comes in and is dealing with a lot of stuff, I'm going to want to know what's medical and what is emotional that you can deal with. Okay? So, I'm going to pick on someone else. Mr. Huyagana. What's your name?
Oh, sorry, Abe.
Abe? So Abe comes in my office.
You can do this, Candy.
Okay. I usually bring candy, but I quit buying it because Corona.
Yeah.
I have a 9-year-old at home, you guys, and she always says, I hate the Corona. Because everything gets canceled because of the Corona. Okay, Abe. So, Abe comes into my office, and he's like, Walters, I'm just always ticked. And I'll be like, okay, well, let's talk about it for a minute. Sometimes he's going to know what ticks him off, and sometimes you won't. And honestly, I think it's more frustrating to not know why. Because as human beings, we're problem solvers, right? And so we like to say, well, what is it? Let's tackle it. Let's move on, okay? And so when you don't know why, it's very, very frustrating. So me and Abe are having this conversation. He's just really agitated, not sure why. I'm going to say, okay, Abe, we're going to have some questions here to see if you're internal or external. We talk for a minute, and he talks to me about that he's more of an internal. Now, you can be both. You just have one that's more dominant, right? So after me and Abe talk, we decide he's internal. I'm going to send him home with a prescription. And my prescription is going to be, hey, Abe, this is what I want you to do. Are you a morning person or an evening person? Evening? Okay. Before you go to bed, about 20 minutes before you go to bed, I want you to vomit all over this journal. I want you to open it up and just let your mind go. If you want to do this on the computer because your hand starts to hurt, that's totally cool. You don't have to save it. But I just want you to let whatever comes to mind, no matter what, go out. Okay? I had to do this exercise in my positive therapy counseling classes up at the U. And sometimes what I was writing was, there's nothing in my brain. I can't think of anything. But I would type that because that's what was popping in my brain, was that there's nothing in my brain. By allowing no barriers, no agenda, it's amazing what will come out. Sometimes what would come out was gratitude, appreciation. Sometimes things would come out that I didn't realize were kind of bugging me because I minimized them, right? I pushed them aside. But it allowed my brain to have this free association to just flow. So this is what I'd give Abe to do. And then after 5 days, Abe would come back, and I would say, Abe, how you doing? How did it do? And there's actually one more thing I'd ask you. You guys, I don't know if you guys are going to learn about Maslow.
Yeah, just briefly though.
Okay, so Maslow is a theorist who has the hierarchy of needs. And it's a triangle. Okay? And with Maslow, the thought process behind it, which I do agree with, is the first thing we have to secure before we can move to the next level is your basic needs. Shelter, food. What's the other one? Shelter, food, and
Water.
what'd you say?
Water.
I think that goes into food. But anyways, your basic things to survive, right? So he talks about that if we don't have this secured, we can't move on to this. And this is more safety, okay? And I use Maslow a lot because if I have a student that comes in my office who's what's called a couch sleeper, do you know what that is? They don't have a place to stay. And so every night they're just rotating from couches to couches, okay? If I have someone that is a couch surfer, is actually what they call it, do you think I should talk to him about his grades? Or do you think we have a bigger issue here? Okay? So that was Maslow's idea, was that you have to take care of these certain basic needs before we can move on to the next, right? And so as a counselor, I'm going to deal with the fact that we don't have a stable home before I'm going to talk about grades, right? Okay? So Abe comes in my office. We've already talked about vomiting on the journal every night, okay? I'm going to ask him 3 questions. Abe, I want you to be honest with these 3 questions, okay? They're not embarrassing. Abe, what time did you go to bed last night?
11:30.
11:30. What time did you wake up?
6:40 about.
6:40? Okay. Abe, what'd you have for breakfast?
Well,
Be honest.
I honestly can't even remember.
Did you eat breakfast?
Yes, I did.
So you did eat something. You're thinking it might be toast or waffles?
Yes.
Okay. What'd you have for dinner last night?
Pasta.
Okay. And then how much water did you drink today?
About a cup.
Okay. So just about Are you a big water drinker?
I try to be, but not always.
What's your go-to drink?
Just water.
Just water. Okay. And then did you exercise yesterday?
Besides walking to and from school now.
Okay. So I'm going to say walking. That's about it. What, do you have a workout routine at all?
No.
Okay. So the reason why I'm asking this is Kim Walter's hierarchy of needs. And I'm going to sit here and say, okay, Abe, let's do the math. 11:30 to 12:30, 12:30 to 1:30, 2:30, 3:30, 4:30, 5:30, 6:30. Okay, I'm going to round it down a little bit. 7 hours of sleep. Pasta, good. Waffles, I'm glad you got something in the tank. Okay. Walking, I don't know how I feel about that. Okay. The reason why is you have normal, natural hormones, right? Your body is a car. I tell my girls this all the time. If you put the cheap, crappy gas or the wrong gas in the car, what's your car going to do? It's going to putter. So if you eat nothing, or you have a soda and a bag of Funyuns for breakfast, how do you think your body's going to function the first part of the day? It's going to be slow. Now, I can't eat breakfast. It makes me vomit. The meds I'm on makes me sick. But I can do a protein shake. So every morning, I have a protein shake, and then at 9 o'clock, I can handle a protein, like a nut bar kind of thing. And then I can progress, right? And then by lunch, I can eat something more substantial, okay? But I'm still putting something in the tank, okay? How many hours of sleep do you think a student of your age, because most of you guys are probably 15, 16 years old. I might have a couple 17, 18-year-olds in here. How many hours of sleep do you think you're supposed to have?
8 to 9.
Say it loud, say it proud.
8 to 9.
Exactly. Okay? Sorry, I should have told you I was throwing something. Oh, you really have thrown that. Okay, so 7 hours, I'll take it. Because usually teenagers, I get 6 or 5. I'll take your 7, but if I could have another hour, I'd love it. Okay? Your brain needs to rest. Okay? And do you guys need something? Miss Moss.
She would be in the gym. She's not in this room at all this semester.
Okay, thank you.
So, your body needs to rest. How many of you guys have gone to sleep with an issue and woke up with an answer? Because your brain is this amazing thing like we've already talked about. And all day it's going, okay, walk, chew, breathe. Oh, watch out for that person who's walking towards you on their cell phone and not paying attention. All these things, right? When you sleep and let your body relax, your brain is able to catch up and process everything else. It needs that. 7 hours is pushing it. I like to see 8 or 9. Okay? Food. Your metabolism, your body needs food to burn. Yes, that's what I meant to say. It's impossible to expect your guys to be functional teenagers, mentally and physically, if you're not putting something in the tank, okay? So eating, and then exercise. Even if you're an internal person, it is vital that we have an exercise routine. I want your heart rate up 45 minutes, not like straight through, but a workout for 45 minutes at least 3 times a week, at least. So, it's okay that you just walked yesterday. So today, you're going to do something else. You're going to spice it up a little bit. I don't know, Abe, if you're into kickboxing, that's a good one to do because that'll take usually about 30-minute routine. Maybe lifting some weights, going for a jog, going for a bike ride, but doing something that's going to actually push the heart, okay? Now, Abe comes back to me after 5 days. Why do I pick 5 days, you guys? What's after 5 days? Say it loud, say it proud. If we haven't improved, we're going to pull up that white flag, right? So Abe comes into my office 5 days later and I say, okay, Abe, hey. So we've been working on going to bed a little bit earlier. You're supposed to eat 3 meals a day and 2 snacks. You're getting your at least exercise 3 times a day. And we've been doing our emotional vomiting in the journal. How we doing? Abe might be saying, actually, pretty good. Now, do I want him to come in and be like, Miss Walters has just cured me? No. But he should see at least some improvement. Maybe not where he wants to be, but some improvement. Because do we fix things in 5 days? No. But let's say Abe comes in, and he really is being honest with me, and he says, Walters, I'm sleeping. Or I can't sleep. I'm trying, but I can't fall asleep. I am eating. I'm exercising, and I'm not taking drugs. This is over-the-counter, prescribed, or illegal that are not prescribed to you, okay? All those things, if those things are all, he's doing what he needs to be doing, and he still feels like crap, is this something that maybe he can cope through? Or is this a medical issue? Okay? And that's why I'm not against meds, but I'm not also pro. I think there's a balance. I think you need to try to do what's in your control to really see how much of this can be redirected by you naturally having your body repair itself. And how much of this is out of your hand. So if you are a diabetic, what do you think they do with diabetics? They come in and they find out you're a type 1 diabetic. Which one's worse, type 1 or type 2? Yep, that's a cue for you. Worse.
Oh, are you asking me, like,
Type 1, type 2.
worse? I mean, one is, like, hereditary.
Okay,
Get it?
that's what, I thought it was the lower number, but I always want to say 2 because you think higher
Well,
number,
but
right?
2 is, like,
Diet.
some of lifestyle stuff.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So if you come in and you are diabetic and you are type 2, right? Because this is probably something that you have control over. Your food choices, your lack of exercising is causing you to go into this diabetic extreme. Type 1, you can be a marathon runner. You can eat whole foods, and you can still have diabetes 1, okay? If you come in with type 1 diabetes, and I tell you, all you gotta do is go home, and I want you to meditate and say, oh, insulin, please develop insulin. What do you think is gonna happen? Do you think your body's gonna make insulin? Say it loud, say it proud.
Not gonna have any insulin.
Right. Okay? Some things we can't wish for, right? Some things are beyond our control. And that's why the doctor will prescribe insulin, correct? So that way your body regulates. The same thing goes for emotion. If you are getting enough sleep or trying to get enough sleep, you're eating healthy, you're exercising, you're not using drugs that you shouldn't be using, and your body is still not making the correct amount of hormones, we might have to introduce a medication to get these suckers working right. It's called quality of life. Not just for you, but the people around you. Does this make sense? Now, going back to illegal drugs, when you smoke pot, marijuana, weed, doobie, whatever you want to call it, what do you think happens to these receptors? Do you think they go crazy, shooting off like nuts, or do you think they go putter, 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 putter? Say it loud, say it proud. What do you think marijuana does?
Slows them down.
Slows them down, okay? So when we take marijuana into the system, it kind of slows them down. People usually describe feeling calm, relaxed, right? And that's why, because it's slowing down these receptors, okay? After long amounts of use of pot, it actually will damage these receptors, okay? They'll actually, it's like pruning them, like cutting them, okay? Take something like speed, meth. What do you think it does to these hormones? Opens the floodgates, right? Shoots them off like crazy. Same thing, it damages these receptors. Now, if you are a marijuana user and you quit taking marijuana, these receptors will actually grow back. Okay? So if you have smoked pot in the past, you are not out of luck. Stop. Allow these receptors to grow back. Now, depending on your DNA, these could be permanently damaged by marijuana. It's not likely, but it can happen. I had a patient at Youth Care. We had him for 8 months. And so he came in major pothead, okay? After about 4 or 5 months being clean, he still would walk in the morning like this. I called it old man syndrome. He'd hold out his belly, I don't know why, and he'd shuffle. And his mouth would always be partially open. And I'd say, hey, what's up? He'd be like, what are we doing today? He always looked like he just woke up. Because unfortunately he had fried his brain. Does that mean that he's not going to be able to have a job one day, progress in life? No, but he's just always going to be kind of burned out. Okay? Doesn't happen to everybody, but I don't know about you, but I don't want to play Russian roulette. There are 2 drugs that scare the crap out of me. Because the first time you take them, one scares the crap out of me. Because the first time you take it, the body gets addicted to it. The first time you take it, the body cuts these all off. And they do not grow back. And this is why this is probably one of the hardest drugs to get off of. Because you never have that fluctuation of emotions. You're always going to feel kind of flat. Unless you take the drug again. And then you got to take a little bit more to get the same effect you got the first time. When you become clean, you can be functionable. You can have a life. But this is the hardest drug to get off of, and it's the one that people usually go back on the easiest because these receptors have been permanently ruined. What drug do you think that is?
Heroin.
Heroin. Heroin scares the living crap out of me. Because the minute it comes into the system, the body gets addicted. Okay? Another one that scares me is meth. Meth will also damage these receptors, and they usually do not grow back. Don't mess with them. Okay? So when we tell you not to do drugs, it's not just because we're being dork faces and saying, hey, say no to drugs. It's because it actually will damage your brain. If you are taking OxyContin that was not prescribed to you, do you think that's going to make you go high or low? What do you think Oxy does? Why do they prescribe Oxy? It takes away what? Pain. So do you think it's going to mellow you out? Yep. Okay. Too much of a high dose, you can overdose and die, right? Because your body gets too numb and it quits working. This is why you don't take things that don't belong to you. Okay. What else did I want to say about the brain? Oh, this is why you guys, you have to be 21 to drink. Because this baby is growing. Do you know that boys are not done with puberty till they're 22? Sorry, guys. You're through the hardest part. Usually by the time you get to high school, you've done the big kahuna one, okay? Some of you guys might be a little bit late on that, and you'll do it in 9th and 10th grade. But usually the biggest component of puberty is hit end of junior high and beginning of high school. But you guys can actually still grow till you're 22. So sometimes that gets people excited. They might grow some more, okay? When do you think women are usually done with puberty? If guys are 22, when do you think women are?
It's like 20, right?
18.
17, 18, okay? That's why we get a little frustrated with you guys, no offense. And girls, that's why they don't make sense until they're about 25. It's just the reality of the beast, okay? So you have this body that's growing and developing, okay? And you're taking alcohol into the system, it's screwing with it. That's why you have to be 21 to buy alcohol. How old do you have to be to smoke? How old do you have to be to go buy cigarettes?
21.
What? 18, okay? Same reason. I would prefer you to stay away from this stuff because it can become addictive, but there's a reason why there's age limits on these things. What about vaping? Are you seeing any issues with vaping? What kind of issues are we seeing? A lot of respiratory, right? You're putting that oil and it's sitting in those lungs and causing some major problems. I had a brother-in-law that was a big smoker and he thought he had found his holy grail, vaping. So then he vaped and vaping's been around for what, you guys? About 5 years? 6 years? It's not too old. 2 years ago, he was in ICU because he had pneumonia, and it was a cause from that vaping, okay? So just be mindful. There's a reason why there's an age limit on things, and even that, be smart, okay? Any of you guys have questions about this kind of stuff? Okay, what time is this class over at? 8.
Yeah, 8:50.
Okay, well, I'm going to give you guys a test in a little bit, so I hope you took good notes. Now we're going to talk about something that I'm very, very passionate about. Ashton, what does that say? Can you read my handwriting? Mindfulness, exactly. What do you think that word means? Hillcrest football, white shirt in the back. What's your name?
Roy.
Roy?
Yeah.
Roy, what do you think mindfulness is?
It's being aware of what you're doing and what's going on around you.
Exactly. Could not have said it better myself. Okay, I'm going to throw something at you. I'm going to warn you. Okay, I played volleyball, so if you want me to, but let's see how my arm's on that. Okay. Mindfulness. The reason why I'm very passionate about this is something that I've worked really hard on, especially in the last 4 or 5 years, to be aware for myself. When I am being mindful, I'm the kind of person I want to be. When I'm not having self-awareness, I'm not very nice. Okay? So, Asher is on my caseload. Okay? Does any of you guys have the last name Hoijklman? Okay. Roy, what's your last name?
King.
King. So you're mine now, because the alphabet changed. So you're mine now. Any of you other ones? Have you mine? Okay. So let's say Asher comes in to my office, and I am not being mindful. So I woke up, so last night, this is true. Yesterday, I'm at work here, and it hits about 9 o'clock. Have any of you guys ever had equilibrium issues? Okay, what it does, okay, it sucks, right? It's something that's off balance in the fluids in your brain, okay? It can be a lot of different things. And so I'm in my office, and my vision starts to go a little bit blurry in one eye, which tells me a migraine's coming, right? Even though I don't have a headache yet, it's kind of a precursor. And all of a sudden, things start to spin. And when things start to spin, I feel like I'm going to throw up. So I'm in my office yesterday like this. One eye closed, trying to work. Okay? And it started getting really bad, so I laid on my couch in my office with my eyes closed. And it got to the point I thought, I am going to lose my breakfast. So I got up and I got my butt home. And I was like, the car. Probably should not have drove home, okay? Went home, laid flat on my back, didn't lay on my side, took some Excedrin, slept for 3 hours, okay? So let's say, so last night, what's my point? Last night I didn't sleep good. I saw every hour that passed last night because I slept during the day, threw off my sleep pattern. So Asher comes in my office at 7:30. I'm tired. I am so tired. And just so you know, this morning, I had to have a heart-to-heart with my 9-year-old because she told me she wasn't going to school today because kids are mean. So we had a role play and practice how we handle what we call haters. Okay? So this is what I'm doing all morning, right? And then I do carpool in the morning before 7, drop off the middle school kidders, get here, Asher's waiting for me. So I'm tired, and I walk in, I'm like, hey, Asher, sit down. He sits down, he goes, Miss Walters, I do not like my health teacher. Miss Hurst smells like garlic. I don't think I can be in her class anymore. Now I have a 45-year-old brain. Asher didn't say that about you. You don't smell like garlic. I have a 45-year-old brain. Asher, 16 yet? When did you turn 16? April. Okay, so Asher's almost 16. Asher's brain and my brain are two different places, right? What's important to Asher might seem silly to me. Now, if I'm not being mindful, I'm going to express that and go, are you kidding me? Knock it off. Go back to class. You got a mask on anyway. Spray a little cologne on it and deal with it. Okay? How do you think Asher's going to feel when he leaves my office if I totally dismissed him like that? Do you think you're going to want to come back to my office, Asher? Probably not. Well, you do because you like me. But let's say I'm not very nice. You probably won't. You probably won't want to ask me for anything else, right? Because I wasn't being mindful that Asher, even though it might have been silly to me, it was bothering him. Okay? So then Asher comes back and he's just like, well, Walter doesn't care about me. Screw that. And comes to class, whatever. And as I progress through the day, I just dismiss people. Because I don't want to deal with it. I'm tired, you guys. I don't want to deal with it. Then I'm driving home, and I'm driving Miss Daisy. Okay? I'm driving behind the person that is driving the speed limit or 5 below. And if I'm not being mindful, hey, I'm riding their butt. I'm doing this in the mirror. Go. And I'm agitated. And then I get home, and I open up the garage, and I'm greeted by 4 girls and a black lab. And I'm like this. Do you see how not being mindful of how I'm feeling? I just exploded on everyone who was around me. Okay? Now, luckily for Asher, I try really hard with this one. So that when Asher comes in and says, Miss Hurst has garlic breath, I'll say, oh man, that sucks. Especially at 7:30 in the morning. Dude, what can we do about that? What's some things that we could do to kind of help it be a better situation? Because we probably don't want to embarrass Miss Hurst and say, dude, you have garlic breath. You know, she's an adult, she has feelings. Maybe she does garlic pills in the morning, she doesn't want to get a cold. So what's our options here? Can you sit further away from her? If I gave you some gum, like fresh gum, and you chewed it, I know it makes my mask smell like mint. Do you want to try that? Maybe we could get you some cool oils and put like mint oil in the mask. What do you think about that? Do you think when Asher leaves my office, he's going to feel like he was heard? Okay. When I get home and I pull up that garage door, and I've done this, you guys, I hear them. Before the door opens all the way, I hear them yelling at each other. And sometimes I re-shut the garage door and take a little drive and come back and try again. But I'm not there yet. I'm not ready to be mom yet. Okay? But I'm being mindful. And this is something I want you guys to start practicing. When you walk into the school of Hillcrest, do you glance behind you to see if there's someone behind you to hold the door open for them? Or do you just are like a robot? Pop, 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 and the door slams in their face. We all have done it because we're not being mindful. It's not that we're inconsiderate, but we're not being mindful. Okay? So with this, I'm going to give you 2 challenges. Last year, people that attempted both of these challenges came down to the counseling center and got a drink out of my fridge. Doesn't mean you have to accomplish both of them and be like, that was so cool, that was mind-blowing. I want you just to try it. Okay? Challenge number 1. What's your name? Piper? What does that say? Call someone by their name. So this is something I started doing. I've been married for, it'll be 20 years in October. This is something my husband is very good at, and it's something I've picked up because of him. So whenever we go out to eat to a restaurant or we go to the grocery store, he always looks at the person's name tag and calls them by name. And it's very interesting how the relationship changes between you and that person. So I bet a lot of you guys probably go to 7-Eleven or Maverick. Is this a fair assumption? Pick up a drink or a snack sometimes? Okay? Maybe go to a grocery store? Go to a restaurant? Try doing this, and it makes me giggle so hard every time I do it because this is what happens. So, did I ask you what your name is? What's your name? Brian?
Brian.
With a B? Okay. So let's say, Brian, you're working at Target. I love Target. I'm there every day. I hate to tell you that. And Brian's at Target. He works there. And he's checking me out, right? I got my groceries. He's checking me out. Not that kind of checking out, but there you go. So I have my groceries. He's checking me out. And he says to me, sometimes I don't even look up, did you find everything you were looking for? I did, Brian. Thanks. And they look at you like, do I know you? How do you know my name? It's right there on your shirt, dude. But all of a sudden, Brian knows I saw him. There's a connection now. It's not just another customer. He's ringing out at Target. Me and him just connected. At the restaurant, my husband loves to go to Olive Garden. They'll come up and they'll say, hey, welcome to Olive Garden. Would you like to hear about our specials? What can I get you to drink? My husband will always say, well, Ryan, I think I would like to have a Dr. Pepper with no ice. And then he'll look at me and I say, I'd like to have a water. And all of a sudden Ryan's like, all righty, I'll be right on that. Because we have just made a connection. Just by using their name. I swear we have gotten free food because of this. Don't do it for that reason. But there are benefits because people like to be seen. People like to have connections. And unfortunately, with the world that we're in right now, we do a lot of non-connections. We are passing, my nose itches. We are passing people all day long and not even phasing them. People are not being seen. And some people need to be seen. So that's my challenge for you. I would like to see if you notice any difference. Did they look at you like, what, the fridge? Or were they like, oh, hey. And you felt a connection, okay? So that's one. All right, what's your name?
Me?
Yes.
Maddie.
Maddie? Maddie, what does that say?
Go on a date with yourself.
Yes, weird, right? This is what I want you to do with this one. I'm 45. It doesn't bother me to go to a restaurant by myself. It doesn't bother me to go to the movies by myself. Sometimes I just want to be by myself. I will admit, though, when I go out to a restaurant, I always face like the wall because it is kind of weird. And I always act like I'm really busy with papers or on my phone or something. With you guys, what I want you to do is go for a walk. Go for a drive if you drive. Now, mom and dad or whoever you live with might say still take your phone, but I want it to be on vibrate and you are not to touch it. You guys are so connected. You are constantly connected. And what's happening and what we're noticing on a mental level is that you guys are getting what's called strained. So we talked a little bit earlier about the fight or flight, okay? And what happens is what research has shown that is when your phone goes off, when it dings, because you get a notification or an alert, your fight or flight response actually gets stimulated. Boom, 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 because you get reinforced like, oh, who's calling me? Whoop, what did somebody like? Whoop, you know what I'm saying? And so you're always in this sense of arousal. And what it's doing is it's exhausting you. We're seeing a huge increase with your age group of anxiety, agitation, and coping because you're always in that sense of arousal. And this is why I need you guys to allow yourself to disconnect for a minute. Allow yourself to be aware of your senses. What do you hear, smell, see, taste? I don't care if it's going for a drive, going for a walk, going up to the mountains, but you have to allow yourself time to disconnect. I am not anti-cell phones. I am not going to think that they're going to go away because they're not. They're here to stay, and they have a lot of good to them. But you guys have to find a balance. You have to allow your body time to disconnect. How many of you guys sleep with your cell phones? All of you guys put your cell phones in your mom's bathroom at 9 o'clock at night? Yes, no? Where's your cell phone at night, Abel? It's Abel, right?
No, just
Abe, sorry. Abe, where's your cell phone at night?
by my bed, but I just have the notifications off, so it doesn't wake me up or anything.
Why is it in your room?
I'm too lazy to put it in the
Okay,
bathroom.
just curious. Where's your phone at night? Next to you? Do you use it as an alarm clock? Talk about that in a minute. Where's your phone at night?
Running.
By you? Does anybody's parents make them turn their phone in and not let it be in their room? Okay. My kids, I have a 16-year-old. She's going to be 17 in a month. She has to turn her phone in Monday through Thursday, 9 o'clock in my bathroom. Does that mean she goes to bed at 9? No. But we're done. Okay? And she has to turn off notifications. Does you think Mamacita wants to be hearing beep, beep, beep all night? No. She has what's called an old school alarm clock. It's this really cool thing. You plug it into the wall. And you set it. And you can put backup batteries in it, so if the power goes off, it still works. And it either will play music or this obnoxious beeping noise to wake you up. If you're not sure where to get one, I can let you know. So she has one of those cool things in her room. All of my girls do except for my 9-year-old. Even though their Papacita wakes them up every morning at 6. Okay? The reason why is I have her turn her phone in at 9 is if I go from phone to bed, this doesn't happen. You need a transition time to sleep. You need a routine. And so she has to turn her phone in at 9. I want her in bed by 10. Because I know that I have 1 hour that she is not being stimulated by her phone. And we have arguments about it. Her boyfriend right now is in Guam, in the military. And so their hours are different. Wham, 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 wham. I am trying to be mindful that that's important to her. So I let him call at 6 in the morning and they do FaceTime when she gets ready. But the reality is you need to allow yourself that disconnect. So if you can, Abe, and you're not being too lazy, try to have your phone charged in the kitchen or somewhere that it's not next to you. I love that you're turning off the notifications, but most likely, and I'm not going to assume because I'm not at your home, but you probably go from phone to bed. Not always, maybe you don't. But what I want is I want a time in between for you guys to be selfish and to try to work on stimulation. Okay? And so we can hopefully get Abe to bed before 11:30. Okay? That's our hope and prayer. Okay? So, all right. Grab some treats. Raise your hand, don't blurt out the answer. Can I have that bulb next to you, kiddo? Thank you. How many days do I want you suffering before you're throwing up that white flag? 5. What shoots out of your brain on either side? What's coming out of those receptors? Hormones. What are the 3 things, if you looked at the Maslow hierarchy of needs, the Kim Walter's hierarchy of needs, what were the 3 things on the bottom?
Sleep, food, and exercise.
Watch out, Asher, my arm's not that good. What drug scares the crap out of Miss Walters? Why?
Because I'm allergic.
The minute it goes in at Dixon, breaks those receptors right off, okay? What is the 2 challenges that if you try, you can come to my office for a drink? 2 challenges.
Call people by their first name and go on a date by yourself without your phone.
Thank you. Why do I want you not to have your phone with you on your date or before you go to bed? Why do you think I want you not to have your phone with you? Exactly. It's just going to stimulate the brain. You're not getting sleep. Let me think of one more. What are the 2 dominant traits that people have to handle things? We went through this in the very beginning. There's 2 things. You're either one or the other. You can be both. There you go. You guys, my hope and my point to you guys is 1, be kind to yourself. Be kind. Okay? There is so much going on in the world. You have control over how you behave and how you treat. This is why I want you to be kind to yourself and disconnect and allow yourself that time out. You deserve it. The stuff that you guys are dealing with, I didn't deal with that when I was your age, not even close to it. And it scares me what you guys are dealing with. I have 4 kids of my own. It scares me. Be kind. Everybody has a story, and even if they're being a total not very nice person, they still have a story. You might not know it. Doesn't mean you have to accept how they're treating you, but you don't need to add to it. Be aware, be kind, be self-aware, and put up those white flags. We are losing too many of you to either accidental or intentional suicide. You know what I mean by accidental? Overdose? Car accidents? You're all important for different reasons. And it's so important that if you don't know it and you can't see it, you throw up that white flag and you find someone that can. Unfortunately, sometimes that will not be at your home. Some of you guys have pretty crappy home lives. And I'm sorry that that's what you're having to deal with. I can't change that, but I can hopefully be your safety net while you're here. Utilize your counselor. That's what we're there for. That's why you get paid the big bucks. We don't teach classes unless we get asked to guest speak. We're your advocate. We're not just there to change your schedule, okay? We want to be there for you when you need us. And if we're not there, and it's 3:30, or Kim went home with a migraine, there's other resources available to you 24/7. You're never alone. All right, so please be kind. Come down and see me if you do those two things, and I'll load up my fridge. I think right now all I have is ices in there. Ice, baby. All right, guys.